Welcome to Speak Out Charlotte. I'm your host, Jim Puckett. Thanks for joining us tonight. We get together every Tuesday night to talk with people who are involved in Charlotte-Mecklenburg region to talk about the challenges we have, the opportunities we have, and any general information that we think will make your life and you a better informed person. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I got a regular guest and often guest host with us tonight, so it's you get 2 for 1, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It might be twice as what they can handle. Wayne Powers.
All right, James. Good to see you, sir.
A little bit of everything. Entrepreneur, small business guy, TV star, radio personality.
Yeah, and picture in the post office, every post office in the country.
Muckraker and
So who's going to interview who here?
I think it's going to be both this time. But we did want to have
on the night of the 23rd. That's what I want
to know. I have no clue. Which 23rd? There are 12 of them. Every year there's 12 of them. You've recently been in the news for taking on the city of Charlotte, and I want to talk about that a little bit. It's a very, very interesting story, and one that I don't know got a whole lot of press that people really need to pay attention to, and it has to do with closed session and something that is vitally important. I don't think that the public doesn't understand, I don't think as well as sometimes they should, how limited government is supposed to be in what it does behind closed doors. And I'll be honest with you, the past history of Charlotte has not been horrible, but it is getting horrible again. And let's talk about that a little bit. Tell us kind of what you've been involved with, who you've been involved with, and what the whole backstory
Let me
is.
give you a little background before I even showed up in Charlotte. I've lived here for 20 years now. Mm-hmm. But 40 years ago, wow. Remember more than 40 years, 71, I think 1970, the first sunshine laws were passed in the state of North Carolina. Sunshine laws are, open meetings law, the public documents law, the things that protect the public's right to know.
Right. So that
the people's business is being done in the people's presence. And that's a really core issue of mine. It always has been for as long as you've known me, and it still continues to be. Because the reason I say that is that, you and I might agree or disagree on any issue. The cameraman, we might agree or disagree on any issue, but we can't even have the conversation or the debate or the Donnybrook or whatever unless the public is apprised of what's going on with their elected representatives, how they're conducting themselves, and how they want to spend our money.
Right.
And how they want to commit our resources. Those are really critical issues, no matter where you are in the political spectrum. It's not a political issue.
Right.
It's absolutely universal. It should be, anybody who is civic-minded should be very concerned about this. So the sunshine laws were passed. In 1971, because these laws were new, and the way that things had always been done historically in the city of Charlotte,
right.
Sort of it's benevolent oligarchy of, hey, we know what's best. The business leaders and the city fathers will get together over a barbecue and do the real business, and then they go through the charade at a public meeting. Well, that wasn't legal.
Right.
And so a group of journalists at the time, and the SBJ, the Society of Professional Journalists, filed a suit to demand that the City of Charlotte, 3 suits actually, City of Charlotte, the County Commission, and the school board all obey the sunshine laws, which they weren't doing.
Right.
So it went to court, and Judge Frank Snepp, who I don't know if I knew Judge Snepp. I hope you did, because he was one of the great jurists in North Carolina history. And I knew him in his retirement years, and I was very privileged to do so. But he was sort of a lanky sort of fellow, and very famously, he pointed to then Mayor John Belk.
Okay.
He lined up the city council and the mayor like you would do in criminal court. This is a civil court. He lined them up in criminal, like you would do in a criminal case, and he pointed his long bony finger at Mayor Belk and said, "Sir, I didn't write this law. I may not even agree with this law. But as long as it is the law in the state of North Carolina, you will obey it or you will go to jail, sir. And Mayor Belk, no one ever spoke to John Belk that way, ever. Before or after, I don't think. Well, his jaw dropped, and consequently, the Judge Snepp imposed a permanent injunction.
Okay.
Against
the keyword being permanent.
Yes, keyword being permanent, that you shall obey these open meetings laws and the sunshine laws of this state forever hereafter, and if you don't, there's going to be some real repercussions. So that was the permanent injunction. And he named as the defendants each of the city council members at the time by name.
Wow.
Mayor Belk by name, and the city of Charlotte by name as a corporate entity from the state of North Carolina. Well, as the Panthers issue was taking shape, and we had our city council and our mayor and starting to meet behind closed doors with Jerry Richardson and other.
And this is for the funding, where they're asking for funding from the city. Major
funding to upgrade their stadium.
Right.
Now, they weren't asking for it, to be quite honest with you. Nobody ever asked for anything until Mayor Fox volunteered in the form of a letter, hey, you're going to do some upfitting, wouldn't you like some money from us? I mean, he really did that. I don't know under what authority he did it, but he did. And then there was a series of closed-door meetings, and the most notorious of them is one where Jerry Richardson showed up at Government Center, took the elevator, and there's a shot of him getting into the elevator, being pushed in. And then there was an armed police guard at the door of the meeting, of our public body meeting, an armed police guard. They put furniture up against the door so it couldn't be opened, and there was an armed police guard to prevent any media or press from getting close enough where they might hear through the door what was going on. This is, these are our elected officials behaving like a banana republic or somewhere, where you would be wearing armbands. This is not the way our government is supposed to function, no matter what party you belong to, no matter what your agenda might be. That's wrong, and it's clearly illegal. Now,
while we're there, let's discuss, to kind of set up what can be, because you can have closed meetings.
Absolutely.
And let's talk about what can be.
There are exemptions.
In those,
and that's exactly.
And for good reason.
Absolutely. There are exemptions where you're talking about the location of a business, if you're negotiating a contract, if you're getting legal advice from counsel, that sort of thing.
If you're purchasing land, one of the normal ones were in the course of, if the city was looking to purchase land, you don't want that out in the public, just like any private buyer, because all of a sudden you realize who the buyer is and you run the price up. So to protect the taxpayer, you're able to negotiate land prices.
Absolutely legitimate.
And same thing with personnel issues.
Correct.
If you have a personnel issue, just like in the private sector.
Although those exemptions are increasingly broad.
Yes,
broadly applied.
and that's really supposed to be. But again, under what is allowable.
Yeah. If it's a personnel issue.
If it's a personnel, just like you would have someone being called into the office at a business.
And in order to hold an executive session, which used to be called executive session or a closed-door meeting, you have to, in an open meeting, you have to announce and declare the reason for the closed-door session, and then you can recess behind closed doors for the proper exam. But you must announce in an open meeting
specifically what the purpose
you will
be discussing.
Yes, what the exemption is.
Not the details, but what you will be discussing.
The exemption, at least.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
That you're using. So there are all kinds of, you can't talk about raising taxes and all that sort of, and they did all that, okay? So I was enraged, you know me, and I don't hide it well. And so I'm sitting at breakfast one morning with Mike Koza, who was an Emmy Award-winning news journalist, WBTV, for many, many years. For those of you that don't remember Mike Koza, Mike it was also a very important core issue with him, this closed-door meeting stuff, and one of his signature pieces would be as he was covering city council or county commission or school board, and they go behind closed doors, he'd have the camera follow them, and he'd let the doors close on the cameras. So that you understood that you, the public, were being shut out from this, and there better darn well be a good reason for it.
Yep.
And so it's, I'm commiserating with him over breakfast one morning, and he said to me, he said, Wayne, he said, 40 years ago, we got a permanent injunction, to stop this kind of stuff from going on. Well, my eyes lit up. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, and I said, well, who are the defendants in the, he said, well, the mayor and the city council. And I said, well, we don't have a different mayor now. We have a different city council. Most of those people are taking their dirt nap. They're not even with us anymore. So I said, was the city, or, the city of Charlotte named as a defendant? He said, I don't remember that. So I said, well, we need to find out. So he went ahead and he went to the archives, and they had to go in the warehouse because this stuff was so long ago.
Sure.
So they got it for him, and we got the original documentation, and sure enough, City of Charlotte named as a defendant specifically. So that meant a permanent injunction against the City of Charlotte was still valid and still enforceable. And so we filed, and when I say we, Mike then went ahead and said, well, I'm going to get, let me get a hold of Bruce Bowers and Ken Kuntz, who were also original complaints, originally involved in this complaint, in this original lawsuit. And they're still around. They're all retired, and they're still around. Bruce Bowers is technically retired from TV, but he's doing documentaries, as you know. And so they were all very interested in participating. And then we found the original attorney that won this case 40 years ago. He's still practicing. His name is Paul Whitfield. And still practicing in Uptown Charlotte. And so we contacted him after looking at his website and finding that of all of these years of his professional career, which is pretty amazing career he's had in the legal profession, he mentioned two things in his career he was most proud of. This was one of the two. So we said, I'll guarantee he's going to be interested, and he was. So we got together and we challenged the city and filed a contempt of court action against the City of Charlotte for their violation, what we contended was their violations of the permanent injunction, protecting and defending the open meetings laws. So we went through the whole process, and the city, and I actually went before City Council on February 25th, before we filed the action. And I got the copy of the original complaint, the original permanent injunction, and I got my 3 minutes. If they give you, at the podium there, and I laid it out, and I said, this has got to stop. We need to open the doors of these meetings, let the people be involved. The whole idea, Jim, as you know, with an open meetings law, is that the public should be involved while they can still participate, while they can still have input and maybe an impact on the result. Not afterwards, when the deals are done and the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and it's just a little puppet show, a little display case event that happens to roll it out when nobody can do anything about it. That's not the intent of the law. And that's what we do here in Charlotte, as you well know, and you've seen it, and you've seen it up close. So, so I laid this out for him, and you can still go on YouTube. You can still go on YouTube and just do a search for Wayne Powers on YouTube, and I'm sure it'll come up. And you'll see me talking to the city council and to the mayor. And at the end, I handed out to everybody on that dais a copy of the permanent injunction, and I wrote in right near where the original defendants' names were. I wrote in every one of their names. Everyone, Republicans, Democrats, it doesn't matter because it's not a partisan issue. And I wrote one for the city attorney, and I wrote one for the city clerk, and I gave them all one. And so Mayor Fox at the end said, well, City Attorney Bob Hageman, do you have any comment here? and you know, and Hageman said, well, I'm not sure. I'm happy to look at whatever Mr. Powers is handing out here, but we're very confident, sir, that we're on steady ground with the exemptions here, and we're perfectly legal in having closed-door meetings. So the mayor said something like, and this is on that little video, which you can see.
The mayor, who happens to be a lawyer, by the way.
Yes, the mayor is a lawyer who should know better. But he said, well, Mr. City Attorney, I know I speak on behalf of the entire City Council when I tell you that we're depending on you to keep us all out of orange jumpsuits, which was a good line.
That's a good line.
But he also covered his posterior by saying that, which was very smart, as a lawyer would be. So fade out, fade in. The city puts up all these roadblocks, and they file a motion for dismissal.
Right.
And, you know, they don't want to hear the merits of the case. They want to go to court. Well, we had that hearing just this past week, and Thursday of last week, and days go by, and we just had the Memorial Day weekend. Come Tuesday, the judge's decision comes down, and he dismissed the case. So, and this is why I'm wearing black today, sir. I'm in mourning for the public's right to know, which is may be, and our sunshine laws, which may be for all intents and purposes dead in this city. And the technical issue that they brought up, which is, you know, again, it's a technical issue, was essentially the law had been revised since the original law was passed. And in order to revise it, they had to change the numbers. So instead of law number 33B, it's now 33C. And therefore, since the law is different, the permanent injunction would be enforcing the original law, which doesn't exist anymore. Well, that would be fine if the law was entirely different.
Right.
But our attorney did show precedent that when a law is immediately replaced, whether it's repealed or whatever, when it's immediately replaced with another law, the portions of the law that exist in both the old and the new law are considered to never have been out of force, which makes total sense.
Sure.
That guarantees the not only the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law.
Right.
And that's what we're after. We know what the legislators intended by that law, and this was totally adhering to the intent of the law, where the letter after the law number might be different, and that's what they got us on. And the judge, who was an appointee of Bev Perdue, whether that has an issue or not, I have no idea, Richard Sumner. So if you're out there in Gaston County, he was a visiting judge from Gaston County, Richard Sumner. You may want to ask him about that if he ever runs for re-election. I would ask him about it.
I would.
You know, I don't, you know, it may be, you know, he may have really applied the law as he saw it. He probably did. I'm not going to question the man. I don't know him. But it's certainly worth a question when he runs for office again, if he does. So that's the case. That's where we are now. Our case is, I don't know if it's dead or not. We can appeal within 30 days once we get the official ruling, which we haven't even gotten yet.
Right.
And the only other avenue for us would be to file an entire new lawsuit. Now here's the crime of that. It's criminal on its face. The public, the people of this state, the people of this community went to court once 40 years ago, spent all that money, waited 2 to 3 years for a decision. When the decision was finally handed down, a permanent injunction was in place. And the spirit and the letter of that permanent injunction should have been adhered to. Now what we're being asked to do is to go through start all over again 40 years later, and the public is being asked to, you know, we're being asked to spend $200,000 to $300,000 and wait 2 to 3 years. You know, we don't have $200,000 to $300,000 to spend from the scratch. You know, as it was, you know, we each contributed as we could contribute, time, resources, and whatever, and we can't do that. That's not where we are. So essentially, what we're saying, what the judge was saying to the public was, it's true. You can't fight City Hall.
Right.
That's the wrong message to send to our children who are studying civics in high school. That's the message they're getting from their own government. You know, we should be sending the exact opposite message, that we want you to be involved, and you can fight City Hall. When City Hall makes a mistake, they will be held accountable like anyone else. You know, we don't have an oligarchy or an aristocracy or an elitist group We have representatives of the people, all the people, and no matter what party they're in, no matter what ethnicity they are, whether they're man or woman, it doesn't matter. They all should be held equally accountable to the people and to the law.
Absolutely. And the other side of that is that those who are elected to those offices should come forward when that's wrong also. And I'll tell you, I've had experience on 2 of the 3. I served on the Board of Education and the County Commission. I will tell you that the Board of Education was horribly, egregiously breaking the law on a regular basis. I was there back during the when we were back in court fighting federal mandated busing and all the things that came along with that. And the lawyer hired by the Board of Education at that time was very much on one side of that argument. They were not an impartial lawyer, and it was hard. On the other side of that, served on the County Commission with Marvin Bethune, and I will tell you, was probably the most proactive of anyone I've dealt with in government in making sure that the County Commission, at least at that time, did not fall into that trap. And Marvin was excellent about saying, wait a minute, you're wandering down a path
so
that you couldn't. And it really is good to know. I mean, it really, I never once felt as though, we were hiding anything. He was exactly what he should have been.
Isn't that what you depend on the county attorney to do?
That's exactly
and that's
right.
what the city council should depend on the city attorney to do. In my opinion,
That's
and it's my
absolutely right.
opinion, the city attorney, Bob Hageman, gave the city council and the mayor very bad advice, and then was compelled to not let the case go forward on its merits.
Right.
Did we break the law or not? But threw up roadblocks, have it dismissed on a technical issue, essentially, in order to prevent the merits from ever being heard, ever being argued. Because I will tell you, my opinion again, but I'm not alone, and it's really clear cut to anybody who can read. They broke the law. They broke the law numerous times, and there's no doubt in my mind about that. And it's a shame that that has not been heard. Now, in Hageman's defense, he did last night at the city council meeting. At the close of the meeting, Andy Doolin, I guess, was trying to rub it in, because there was nobody on our side on city council. Nobody, Republican or Democrat.
Really?
There was nobody. Warren Cooksey was not only not on our side, he was absolutely hostile to us, and arrogantly so, which was shocking to me.
Yeah.
In my opinion, Warren Cooksey should be ashamed of himself, and I don't mind saying that. And I've said it to his face, and I'll say it on camera. You know me; I'm not a partisan, and I tell you what I think. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, I'm right. But I don't have any hidden agendas. You know me better than that. So, but Andy, at the end of the meeting, he said, Mr. Mayor, if I could just ask the city attorney a question here, after they went through this whole contentious thing of the streetcar and Eastland Mall and all these contentious issues. Everything's all resolved, and then Andy Doolin asked the mayor to ask a question of the city attorney, and he said, Mr. City Attorney, could you bring us up to date on this open meetings action? When they had all been all up to date. They already gotten the memos, and everybody kind of chuckled on the dais, Andy, you're getting powers, aren't you? and that was fine. And Andy and I are friends, and that's fine, and I don't mind that at all. But in Hageman's defense, what he did was he gave a very subjective view, obviously, and a view from his perspective that we were wrong and he's right. But he also admitted openly that the dismissal was a technical dismissal. He said it. He said it was appropriate, but it was technical. And in all fairness, it was not based on the merits of the case. But he went on, if the merits had been heard, we're confident that we would have won. Well, that's one lawyer's opinion. We had a lawyer with a very different opinion.
Right.
And the way to resolve that is in a court of law, provide the evidence, cross-examine the witnesses, and let a judge decide. That would have been the right thing to do, and the right thing was not done. And I think this community is poorer for it.
I think so. It is, and again, we have to consider what we're discussing. There are a couple of things about this that are bothersome. The mayor was the one who kind of invited the whole process to start publicly by saying, hey, we think you need to come to us and let's see if we can help you. It was very clear. It was in the press on a regular basis about what was happening. There were discussions there. So this isn't like what would happen if you were luring a company to here. And we understand
and it wasn't about the location of a business, because they cited location of a business as the exemption. Well, the location of Panther Stadium has been on Mint Street, same location, for 18 years now.
And if they were discussing moving it, then perhaps.
Yep.
But even so, I think you get on little, for me, I think I'd be going, wait, this is something we need, this is a discussion that needs to be had in front of the public so the public understands what we're doing.
Right.
If we were talking to the Washington Redskins about leaving Washington and coming here, completely valid, because you don't want the people of Washington to get upset.
You don't want to get in the bidding war.
That's right. And so but that is not what this was about. Everybody knew exactly what it was about.
And they took votes behind closed doors, illegal. They talked and discussed raising taxes behind closed doors, completely illegal. I mean, I could go on and on. But the point is that all the merits of the case should have been heard. And we're cheated as a community because of that. And it further exacerbates a negative image of our elected bodies in this community. It's what they did with the arena. We voted against it and they built it anyway. It's more of that. It's like the public be damned. We're going to do what we want to do anyway. We'll invite now they did a document dump, and I invite everybody to go to charmeck.org, CHARMECK.org, and you can get, because they had to, after the deal was already done, they had to dump the documents, and that was their out. That was their technicality of, oh yes, we obeyed the law. They didn't, but that was their way of saying they did. So you can go and you can get all the documents. You can get all the word for word transcripts of those closed door meetings. It's shocking. You ought to go and watch and read what your elected representatives are doing behind closed doors. And then all the emails from Attorney Hageman. There's a file for Wayne Powers. I don't know how much is in it, but he had a separate file with my name on it. So, it's just, this is not the way, open government is supposed to be. It doesn't instill people any sort of confidence. It doesn't encourage people to be involved, and we would be so much richer if we did it the right way.
Well, and that's why we're here tonight talking about it. We got less than a minute, so we're kind of wrapping it up. It flies.
I wanted to talk about this as an opening thing. I wanted to get into all kinds of other stuff.
I appreciate it, and we'll have you back to do some more. I appreciate it, but I also encourage everyone out there to pay attention to this, because this is the only way you will know what the truth is. And contact City Council, tell them that you approved or disapproved of this, whether it's the law or not. They don't have to go into closed session, and that's a judgment call on their part. We appreciate everything you did.
Thank you, Jerry.
We look forward to you being here again.
I appreciate it. It's good
and
to see you.
we look forward to you being here next Tuesday night. Thank you and good night. Challenges we have, the opportunities we have, and any general information that we think will make your life and you a better informed person.